Pat and Joel moved mountains to get these rocks in place. They've selected the rocks and placed them carefully so that the terrain fits with the terrain.
The rock gardens have always been kind of miniature representations of areas that we've enjoyed.
They use two forms of native sandstone, red-colored sandstone and moss rock. It can be tricky trying to blend these two types of rocks, but with some experimentation they were able to make it work. They stack layers of sandstone to create walls and use moss rock as a natural base in the planted areas.
We've incorporated the new cut, the exposed edges into the cliffs, and tried to stay with moss rock as a capstone as much as you'd find in the surrounding hogbacks around here.
The rock and stone serve as a secure foundation for the elevation changes in their garden while providing a natural bed for their ponds. The design of the stream appeals to both sight and sound.
We've had ponds with streams before, but this time we decided to make a more interesting stream. Others we've had were just went straight to the waterfall and fell down. And Joel decided this time to have a sound to it. He even placed each stone so that we could hear the sound and got just the right sound as it fell down each one.
Having a hobby that can be enjoyed together is fun. Pat and Joel have been working on this garden railway for 3 years. After Joel finished the rocks and soil, it was Pat's turn to express her creative side.
And then I have the opportunity to start painting with my plants on the palette.
She takes advantage of the seasons to complement her garden.
In spring, we get a lot of color. The spring plants will come up and I'll cut the old flowers off, and then the foliage usually looks real nice. And then I'll have a bunch of daylilies and penstemons and hot summer-loving plants coming up. And again, I look for plants whose foliage will be pretty year-round, not just during that bloom time. And as those die down, we have some late fall color, but by late fall, we're really getting into sort of a textural time. There's more interest in colors of foliage, not so many flowers, but a lot of interesting textures.
You'll notice her plants and bushes are all grown to scale. It's one of the biggest challenges in creating a great garden railway. Pat's garden is sprinkled with dwarf conifers, perennials, ground covers, and water plants. Just like the rocks, her plants are chosen with her region in mind.
With our love of the West and Western plants, we really enjoy looking for native plants that have the miniature features. And that's one thing I think that people need to look for, is that to use plants adapted to their conditions and not fight their elements.
There are plenty of natural elements to deal with in this region of northern Colorado. Not only do Pat and Joel contend with the climate, they also have to prevent an invasion of grasshoppers from ambushing their garden railway. Pat and Joel got creative for this war. They used nature to fight nature. They brought in an army of guineas to battle the grasshoppers. These here are the new guineas.
And they are wonderful grasshopper eaters. So we're starting to train them already. We've been taking them out for little walks, and they've already started attacking at a week old.
When you look at this whistle-stop garden, you realize everything in it is functional. From the plants to the animals, everything has a purpose. Even the llamas that I told you about earlier. They're friendly enough, but what are they really doing here?
They have this wonderful byproduct, and it's this wonderful pelletized clean manure, and we use it as a top dressing, and it's been great. It's like, it all sort of cooperates together.
We've spent most of our time exploring the rocks and the plants, and we haven't really talked about the trains. They have several trains they run. Their favorites are the Bachman Shay and the Galloping Goose. Once again, their trains reflect their region.
We love the Colorado history and the Western Railroad history, and I got a Galloping Goose. And I like it because it was sort of the end of the real railroad era, and it was sort of another romantic time. This is one of our favorite places to sit and watch the garden. At the end of a long day, we'll sit in the shade of this tree. I like this spot because you can see all the different tracks, the bridges. You can catch a little bit of the tunnels. In the evening, we'll have the water lilies blooming in the summer. But I really like watching the action of the trains crossing the bridges. Sometimes we'll have them crossing each other. It's just a very active place while we can passively sit and enjoy it.
It's taken Pat and Joel over 3 years to get their garden railway to this point. And in the process, they moved over 20 tons of rock. When we return, we'll take a trip to San Mateo, California to see how water and oil can be used to move these miniature trains.
What tap dance number? I'm supposed to be playing a mermaid. Hold on, I got another call. Hey, honey. Yeah, I got your prescription. And I have to be snack mom tonight? Okay, no problem.
Shop Jewel for boneless, skinless chicken breasts, $1.99 a pound. Use your preferred card for 7-Up, Dr. Pepper, and other varieties. 2 cases are $9. And M&M Mars fun-size candy, 3 bags for $5.
These prices are great. I knew I should have taken a cart.
For great values, Jewel, helping make your life easier.
It's the perfect balance of form and function, color and light, ideas and inspiration. And when it all comes together, life is good. HGTV's Design Time Saturday night. Saturday night starting at 8 on HGTV.
Brought to you by Luna Carpet.
773-202 Luna. The drawing rooms of London had not prepared us for this new world. We were overcome by the very fruits and birds and trees.
British classics.
The air was thick with perfume.
A marriage of Victorian elegance and Caribbean soul.
The seduction was complete. It changed us forever.
British classics from Ethan Allen, where everyone's at home.
With 100 legs and big toes. Whales. Squiggly things. Creepy things. A bug with 2 legs sticking out of his head.
Ever wonder what's in your tap water?
Seahorses. A mermaid.
Brita filters out all kinds of things, including mermaids. Brita turns tap water into drinking water.
Join HGTV for a coast-to-coast tour of the top 10 most beautiful homes in America. Sunday at 5 Eastern on HGTV, Home and Garden Television.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Paul James. We've just seen how rocks can be used to add color and structure to a garden railway. Now let's take a look at the kinds of trains you can use in your garden. Now, most train engines are powered either by electricity or by steam. Of the two, steam is considered more time-consuming, more complicated, but also more real and certainly more nostalgic. When we asked who we should visit to see a truly realistic train operation, everyone had the same answer: Jack Verducci. Welcome to the Fairmont Mining District. It features distinctive trestle work, a tunnel, regional plants, and an impressive steam operation right in the front yard of his home in San Mateo, California. But this is just the beginning of Jack's Garden Railroad. His train's disappearing behind the fence. This is big. This is real. This is really big. This is the Crystal Springs Railroad. An overview of the garden reveals the area in detail. From a mill pond, a logging operation, a roundhouse, a greenhouse, thousands of plants, and much more. His backyard railroad is 65 by 100 feet, with over 600 feet of track. Jack's Garden is a miniature version of the San Francisco Bay Area during the 1930s.
It's kind of like a mythical history, but there is history in it. But right now, it kind of works out that it's like a coastal area. One side is the ocean, the other side is like the San Francisco Bay. We're trying to create the feel of like the coastal range, maybe like Mendocino area where there's a lot of trees.
In fact, your eyes can sometimes deceive you into believing you've actually traveled back in time and space. His miniature time machines are powered by steam, a throwback to the historic era he's created.
It was part of that realism, having real steam engines You know, they're wonderful. They make noises and they throw up steam plumes, and it brings everything to life.
Steam-powered engines are more time-consuming, but Jack believes this adds to the authenticity of the trains.
Well, with the steam, you don't know. You know, one time it might be running great and go right up the hill. The other time it may not. So it's kind of a challenge.
But there's more to Jack's garden than just cool trains. There's also cool gardens. His trees pierce the skyline, much like the giant sequoias of the neighboring Yosemite forest. He's also sprinkled the ground with various ground covers, providing the effect of a rainforest. Naturally, he needed a greenhouse to grow his plants, so he built one.
I bought a glass terrarium at a flea market, and I kind of decorated it up to look like a greenhouse. And we have actual live plants in it, and I have miniature clay pots, and we potted up these very small plants, and they will live in there.
There are more than 1,000 plants and trees in Jack's backyard. His trees, his trains, his buildings, and his people are all true to this miniature size. Meeting this challenge is labor-intensive, and it requires frequent maintenance. To keep his trains running, Jack and his crew need to add water every 10 minutes, fuel every 20 minutes, and oil every 30 minutes. The train can usually make 2 to 3 loops around the track before it needs this kind of attention. Now, conducting a railway operation of this magnitude takes the coordination of several engineers armed with remote controls.
Well, actually, to operate this in full efficiency, you probably need about at least 5 people. You need somebody to dispatch. Then we like to have one person down here, and we call this the steam up bay, and then one up top at the roundhouse where we have an operator's pit. And those guys just help steam up the engines, oil them, fuel them, water them, and then one engineer per train. But to see the full operation, it takes a big group, which is part of the hobby. That's what makes it fun.
This operation moves passengers, cuts logs, transports ore, and moves us through his version of Northern California in the 1930s. We may not be able to travel back in time, but if we could, Jack Verducci's Crystal Springs Railroad would be a nice place to visit. This is actually the second edition of the Crystal Springs Railroad. Jack built the first one in 1988. Then in 1996, a giant tree toppled over it, crushing the lower portion of his garden railway. So Jack just rolled up his sleeves and rebuilt it. When we return, we'll see what happens when you weave miniature trains through a forest of tall trees.
HGTV.com, designed to deliver thousands of ideas directly to you with free online newsletters, message boards where you can talk with your friends, plus program guides to help find your favorite shows. Visit HGTV.com.
The Home Depot is more than a store. It's an all-night diner, an indoor playground. It's kitchen possibilities you never thought were possible, with more unbelievable styles and options to choose from. And now get a free sink base when you purchase 9 or more special order cabinets through November 5th. It's the perfect time to let a little know-how become your inspiration. The Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
Gotta go right now. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go right now. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go.
If you've always got to go, ask your doctor about Detrol LA. It's been proven effective for overactive bladder.
Anyone need a break?
Not right now.
You shouldn't take it if you have stomach, urinary, or glaucoma problems. The most common side effects are dry mouth, constipation, abdominal pain, and headache.
And I don't have to go right now.
Detrol LA. When you've always got to go.
In the summertime, when the weather is high, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. We're always happy. That's for living, yeah, that's Appalachian.
Delicious new Dan and Light and Fit smoothie goes with you, not on you. 80 calories, 0% fat. You've never had a smoothie like this before. Drink Light and Fit. Be light and fit.
This is a classical design we did in Milan. This is a postmodern residence in This design won 5 prestigious awards. Shaki headquarters in Kyoto. To see our architecture, you don't look around the corner, you look around the world. So, what can I do for you?
Design a house around this.
An old auto shop becomes a new house.
I saw a palace, a potential palace.
Every room finished off in colorful style, making this home a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Witness another incredible transformation on Building Character at 8:30, following Before and After at 8. Sunday night on HGTV.
HGTV takes you downstairs for some incredible rooms that will truly amaze you.
My wife said the basement's mine.
Incredible Basements. Sunday night at 9 on HGTV.
Welcome back to Whistle Stop Gardens. I'm Paul James. So far, we've shown you great trains, cool California classrooms, and awesome rock gardens. Well, now we're moving east to meet a man who has a passionate love of plants of all kinds, especially trees. So much so that he couldn't bear the thought of cutting down any of the large trees on his property. So what did he do? Well, he just built his railroad smack dab in the middle of the forest. Jim Strong lives in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. It's a region of the country where trees become forests and plants are plentiful. The perfect combination to create a magical kingdom. Jim's garden railway is big. Its dimensions are 200 feet by 200 feet. There are over 500 plants and shrubs with 1,000 feet of track throughout his garden forest. The woods around this backyard inspire the entire railway.
When we bought the house, the woods was what attracted me. And when we got that train set, and I was thinking about planting it or putting it up in the woods where the train could follow the contour.
He uses these large trees to mask the route of his train. This gives his trains the opportunity to weave their way in and out of view.
I really have enjoyed using the trees as visual barriers. They hide things, and it gives the train a reason for going around them. And basically, they're as much a integral part of the railroad as any of the smaller scale stuff.
As you move in closer, beyond the trees, you see a miniature kingdom with castles and cobblestone houses. Jim felt this was the best way to take advantage of his tall trees, to create an enchanted forest. Gardening is Jim's passion, and his Woodland Railway reflects that passion. He's carefully mixed the colors of his plants to capture the flavor of the Appalachian hills.
We wanted to try to get as much realism as we could in the side yard, as well as color. So that's one of the reasons why we've planted this azalea bush here, which in the springtime has a beautiful pink blossom.
On the shady side of the yard, Jim has found a few different varieties of plants that work well in the woods. But the shade prevented Jim from adding color to his garden. He needed more real estate on the sunny side of the house. So he asked his wife, Ruth, for some more land.
But I suggested it to her, and she says, yeah, I think it would give you some, more variety and brighter colors. So it took us about 2 microseconds to have it all staked out and plan exactly what we wanted to do.
He planted some red impatiens here that highlight nicely against the green and brown colors in the garden. Jim uses cedar trees and junipers and trims them to fit with the size of his cottages. He likes the Virginia juniper, a type of red cedar. It is a light, feathery tree with very tiny needles that scales nicely.
And I must have transplanted, 300 or 400 of those trees up in there. I love just putting trees in and moving them around just to get the kind of scene that I want to get.
Ground covers are another element that provide a strong foundation to Jim's garden. Here we see some Irish moss mixed with sedum. and a touch of wood moss gives the forest floor a variety of texture and color.
I've found that the moss gives it a green feeling and is very comforting, a very pleasant feeling. And that, along with the trees and the flowers, I think that's the most characteristic part of the railroad.
To highlight the texture and character of the moss, Jim added rocks. The natural-looking layers are made of Pennsylvania fieldstone that he found at a local rock quarry. He uses these rocks to provide a foundation for the curves in the track.
And then over there you can see where we've stacked more flat rocks up to give the layered texture that you see in the Appalachian range.
Capturing the feel of Appalachia in his trains was more challenging. When Jim built his garden in the mid-'80s, the only place he could purchase trains was in Germany. American engines weren't being produced. So he bought several German-made LGB models and modified them to fit with his landscape. All of his freight cars have been customized with his Woodland Railway logo. Jim's Garden Railway is over 20 years old. Like the area in which he lives, his railroad has aged well over time. There is a feeling of pride and contentment that permeates Jim Strong's Whistle Stop Garden. He has met the challenge of tall trees and miniature trains and conquered it. Jim has shown us how to take advantage of what nature has to offer. He took a gorgeous backdrop and made it even better. But what happens when you've got a disaster in your backyard and you need to clean it up? When we return, we'll see how an abandoned hillside was transformed into an award-winning garden railway. Stay tuned.
You should see what's on HGTV starting September 29. Weeknights at 10, it's back-to-back episodes of your favorite shows. Monday nights at 10, it's a double dose of Design on a Dime.
Wow!
Tuesdays, catch a full hour of Designer's Challenge. Wednesdays, it's Curb Appeal.
Tricky and clever.
And Thursdays, join the search on House Hunters.
I'm so excited.
Remember, it all happens September 29th at 10 p.m. on HGTV.
When is the best time to start thinking about your dog's joint health? Today, because wear and tear on cartilage occurs over a lifetime, but natural glucosamine helps maintain cartilage for healthy joints and mobility. That's why only Purina One has guaranteed levels of natural glucosamine in all adult dog formulas, so you can help your dog stay active and healthy for a long time to come. Another innovation from Purina One brand. One can make a difference.
The drawing rooms of London had not prepared us for this new world. We were overcome by the very fruits and birds and trees.
British classics.
The air was thick with perfume.
A marriage of Victorian elegance and Caribbean soul.
The seduction was complete. It changed us forever.
British classics from Ethan Allen, where everyone's at home.
Introducing Clorox Oxy Magic Stain Remover in powder and easy-to-use spray.
When you're redoing your bathroom, you'll feel right at home at Lowe's.
Look at it all. There's so much to choose from.
Well, I'll make it easy. Only Lowe's has genuine Jacuzzi brand tubs, toilets, and sinks in stock. And to enhance them, we stock the largest selection of name brand faucets, including Delta and Moen. And Lowe's has low prices every day, guaranteed. That's our promise. Lowe's, improving home improvement.
Welcome back to Whistle Stop Gardens. Garden railroading is a hobby that mixes the beauty of gardens with a love of miniature trains. It's also a hobby for people who love challenges. Bob Cook loves a challenge. He took a muddy, rocky mess on the side of a mountain and turned it into an award-winning garden railway. Let's go to Evergreen, Colorado to find out how. Bob's world is set in the pre-1930s, when gas was a dime and a newspaper cost a penny. Time hasn't affected the price of business in Columbine City or in the neighboring community of Dogpatch. There is a timeless quality to his backyard garden railway, matched by the beauty of his backdrop, the Rocky Mountains. As you watch the train wind its way through the garden, you see solutions where there once were problems. For garden railway designers, extreme climate conditions and dramatic changes in elevation are just a few of the obstacles they face when they take their trains outside. These are the kinds of challenges Bob Cook loves.
I took a disaster and converted it into something that has attracted a lot of attention.
Now, you may think that designing a garden railway on the side of a mountain here in Evergreen, Colorado would be a walk in the park. But Bob had to perform double duty. He needed to tear down before he could build up. Over time, he's moved dirt and rocks to create a track that moves trains.
Basically, as things happen, you find solutions for them. That is my business as an engineer. I have a problem, I work at solving it.
This retired mechanical engineer was part of the team that worked on the Apollo missions, as well as the first manned space station. His methodical approach to problem solving made railway gardening a perfect fit. His first hurdle was the slope of the terrain. There's a 12-foot drop from the top of his track to the bottom. Since a train can only pull a modest 4% grade, Bob had to level out his track. The solution to this problem was trestles. Lots of them.
This one, I spent a summer building this because this roadbed is all made out of wood. And these beams are laminated to get the curve. And then these are ties that are all nailed in.
You can see Bob's passion for the hobby. His love of trains comes from his family history.
I've always loved the shays because they move slow, they're used by logging outfits. This engine here was first purchased by my great-great-uncle's lumber company, and he owned tracks from Florida to upper Michigan, and he was very inventive, and I'm named after him.
Bob is also a fan of the cab-forward engine. These engines look like they're in perpetual reverse. The cab forward was built this way so that an engineer wouldn't get a face full of smoke as he went through the tunnel. Bob liked this idea so much that he created a miniature replica of the engine. Like any smart gardener, Bob uses plants that thrive in his climate. Dwarf Alberta spruce dominate his landscape. He uses dianthus and alyssum to add color. This Oregon grape adds some green to the hillside. To prevent soil erosion, Bob has added ground covers like Irish moss, Scottish moss, and lemon thyme. When you build an outdoor model railroad in the Colorado mountains, you're going to run into some unique weather challenges. What happens when you want to run your trains in the winter and there's snow on the tracks? Well, once again, Bob has an answer.
Yes, I have a operating rotary snowplow that will, under real ideal conditions, will blow snow 8 feet.
When Bob is finished running his trains, he has one last engineering solution to reveal. At the end of the day, he used to hate having to pick up his trains and carry them into the house, and he thought there must be a better way. To get his trains into the house, he cut a hole in the corner of his basement and extended his track, allowing the trains to enter through a trap door and complete their journey home. It's what you'd expect to find at the Columbine City and Dogpatch Railroad. There's never a problem too big to solve in the backyard mountain railway of Bob Cook, where solutions are a mile high. It's taken Bob over 10 years to get his garden railway in this condition, and it's a big job when you do all the work yourself. But imagine what you could accomplish if you had a group of eager volunteers to help you create a whistle-stop garden. When we return, we'll visit a garden nursery in Littleton, Colorado, and see what a group of volunteers actually accomplished in 8 months.
It's the perfect balance of form and function, color and light, ideas and inspiration. And when it all comes together, life is good. HGTV's Design Time Saturday night. Saturday night starting at 8 on HGTV.
Brought to you by Luna Carpet.
773-202 Luna.
Funny on TV is nearly extinct. A good comic is a rare sighting these days, so when we find one, we study it. But sometimes we need to get closer. Here at the GSN Comics in Captivity Institute, we're like a hothouse where the funny flower can grow.
Anybody from Cleveland here tonight? Anybody showing hands?
Game show crowds can be brutal. We're making sure these kids are ready.
National Lampoon's Funny Money, a new game show every night at 10 Eastern and Pacific.
Game Show Network is found on WOW, Cable Channel 89.
Join HGTV for a coast-to-coast tour of the top 10 most beautiful homes in America. Sunday at 5 Eastern on HGTV, Home and Garden Television.
What's wrong?
Look!
Stay calm. I can clean that floor, mate.
The Hoover Floor Mate. It vacuums hard floors. It washes and scrubs, then squeegees floors dry. It even cleans and shines sealed hardwood.
Now that's a clean floor, mate.
Floor Mate, only from Hoover. The Hoover Floor Mate, available at Lowe's.
Introducing La Creme Mousse. You'll love the texture. You'll love the taste. You'll love it or it's free. I love it. New Dannon La Creme Mousse. Love it or it's free.
I'll bring you up when you're down. Up when you're down. It's time to change the time around. Yeah, yeah. Tell your mama, watch my show. Tell your daddy, watch my show.
Catch the Emmy Award-winning Wayne Brady Show. Check your local TV listings for time and channel.
Grandpa, how come you're always chugging Metamucil?
So it won't get thick and gritty.
Mommy doesn't chug.
I found an easier way to take fiber. Beta-fiber. It never gets thick like Metamucil can. It's taste-free, too.
Smart mommy.
Beta-fiber. The choice is clear.
Welcome back to Whistle Stop Gardens. I'm Paul James. A moment ago, I mentioned that we'd see a garden railway built from the ground up. Well, we spent 8 months with a group of expert volunteers watching them transform dirt, rocks, and train tracks into a great garden railway. Let's go to Littleton, Colorado, and see how it all got started. Hudson Gardens is a popular tourist destination located in the suburbs south of Denver, Colorado. This nursery is well known for its beautiful plants and trees. The owners thought a garden railway would be a great visual attraction and decided to recreate a miniature version of a Colorado mountain railway. They spent 6 weeks creating the design. Their main concern was the extreme slope of the hill. A train couldn't climb this steep grade, so they used tunnels, trestles, and bridges to accommodate the elevation changes. Groundbreaking will begin in early March, with an anticipated completion date of early October. With over 5,000 square feet of land and 700 feet of track, they had their hands full. Along the way, several teams will have specific areas of responsibility. The first group will clear the ground and shape the landscape. Then a second set of volunteers will work on the tracks, rivers, and tunnels. And in the summer, a group of gardeners will plant the flowers, shrubs, and trees. In the fall, we'll see the buildings, plants, trains, and people come to life. These volunteers are all experienced in building their own garden railways. This experience will make the process go much smoother.
If that's 27, then we need to be at 25 on that one.
Like the mountains to the west, they wanted to incorporate hills and slopes. This provides visual interest and will allow the trains to appear and disappear behind the mountains. The designers also want to use rivers and streams to cut through the mountains and provide a path for the train to follow.
That's better.
It's now early spring here at Hudson Gardens. You can see some leaves budding on the trees, birds returning, and even some interested spectators. The assignment today is the rocks, the rivers, and the waterfalls. A Colorado red rock is used to provide color and foundation to the railway. After the rocks have been planted, they place plastic and cement into the ground.
Right there. So we're still low, about an inch.
These plastic sheets will provide a bed for the pond and prevent water from seeping out. The tunnels are now taking shape, and we're beginning to see this structure come to life. As you can see, summer has arrived. Plants and people are popping up all over.
Gotta be careful where you plant stuff.
This is our third trip, and the garden railway is coming along nicely. Today, the volunteers are adding the ground covers, plants, and bushes that will provide color and life to the garden.
I think the compost would be perfect.
Their garden is divided into south and north regions. There are lots of sun-loving plants in the south and several shady plants in the north end. They've tried to maintain a Colorado mountain feel, and their plants reflect this. The plants they've chosen will help hold the soil in place and also prevent erosion from occurring. And today, for the first time, the trains make an appearance. These test runs will evaluate the smoothness of the track and the elevation grades. As you can see, fall has arrived, and with it the colors of the season are now reflected in this garden railway. Plants are growing, buildings are in place, and the trains are running on time. Now that the plants are beginning to mature, we can see the reason for their locations. The north side of the garden mirrors the mountain areas. There are dwarf asters, junipers, and evergreens. These will need to be trimmed to maintain their scale. To the south is the rural region. Here we find ice plants and sedums, which will spread and flower later. These hens and chicks will grow nicely in the crevices of the rocks. You still see a lot of soil between the plants. Since this garden is young, these plants need room to grow and spread. Water provides a natural audio-visual thread as it weaves its way throughout the garden. The towns are now beginning to pop up as this garden railway comes to life. Over the course of time, weather will mature this garden railway. Plants will grow and buildings will develop character, and the trains will age. As we learned earlier, a garden railway is a journey, not a destination. But this one is well on its way to becoming a great whistle-stop garden.
I love it when a plan comes together. When we return, we'll see that final piece that makes a garden railway great. A wonderful sense of style. Don't go away.
Next time on Divine Design.
This will look great, I promise you.
The kitchen of an old fraternity house gets a postgraduate makeover.
Oh, if those frat boys can see it now.
Wait till you see how they created space for a dishwasher. Divine Design, tonight at 8:30 on HGTV.
Tonight on Design on a Dime, can the team transform this cluttered room
There's just not enough room to do anything.
into a quirky workspace?
Let's give them the unexpected and go dark, deep, and bold. Whoa!
Design on a Dime, tonight at 10:30, part of Design Time Saturday night on HGTV. HGTV takes you downstairs for some incredible rooms that will truly amaze you.
My wife said the basement's mine.
Incredible Basements, Sunday night at 9 on HGTV.
For replacing windows and doors, you'll feel right at home at Lowe's.
This would be my dream.
Doesn't have to be a dream. At Lowe's, we can do the entire job, from free custom design to installation. We even haul away the old windows and doors. No wonder Lowe's sells more Pella windows and doors than anyone else. And Lowe's has low prices every day, guaranteed. That's our promise.
I'm home.
Lowe's, improving home improvement.
Two things in the world that last longer than time. Love is one of them. For your past, present, and future, the three-stone ring. A diamond is forever.
The drawing rooms of London had not prepared us for this new world. We were overcome by the very fruits and birds and trees.
British classics.
The air was thick with perfume.
A marriage of Victorian elegance and Caribbean soul.
The seduction was complete. It changed us forever.
British classics from Ethan Allen, where everyone's at home.
Do some squirrel tagging, boys!
Let's go, man! We try to get out there as early as we can. It's kind of the early bird gets the squirrel out there.
It's not a sport for the weak. You don't know what a squirrel's gonna do. They can get up to 14 miles per hour, and that's without shoes. It's the circle of life here. We tag, they run, they tag, we run. When they're it, and they gotta come tag you, that's when the fun begins.
No matter what you do, you want fuel to do it. Jimmy Dean sandwiches with tasty sausage, egg, and cheese on a home-style biscuit.
These things go tree to tree.
We've traveled all across the country in search of great whistle-stop gardens, and we're nearing the end of our tour. So far, you've seen garden railways from the California Gold Rush to the Depression era. But now we're going to move forward in time, to the present. You're about to meet hikers, bikers, and railroad tie spikers. It's all put together with a sense of fun. It's also a great garden railway.
Bob Treat is a fine artist by day and a great garden railroader by nature. His canvas of choice is his backyard, here in tropical San Diego, California. He has immersed himself in a world of trains, tunnels, trestles, and toys, and created a masterpiece in motion. If anyone knows what it takes to make a great whistle-stop garden, Bob Treat would.
For me, the biggest thing is visual interest. The layout was designed to be something that you'd see, to respond to visually and get excited about.
His outdoor model railroad is 1,100 square feet large with over 400 feet of track. From the top of the mountain to the base of the quarry, Bob has created a dramatic 10-foot drop in elevation. The canyon dominates his design. Nearly 2/3 of his garden features rock, sand, and mountains, with an area tucked in the corner devoted to plants and shrubs. Unlike the other backyard gardens we've visited, the Snow Creek Railroad is set in the present day. This theme is best reflected in his miniature scenes. You'll find backpackers, construction workers, motorcyclists, and camera crews. Fortunately, on the day we shot this feature, a celebrity had just arrived at the train station. We asked Bob what she was doing there.
We don't know who she is exactly, but we realized she must be important. So we've got the camera crew out here doing an interview on her.
I think you see what's going on here. Bob's having fun with us. His garden railway is full of these kinds of scenes. There's a construction site where we see the workers laboring in the sun while the supervisor is barking orders at them from the comfort of the shade.
I'm not trying to replicate a real railroad, but I'm trying to make it plausible that it could really exist in real life. But if you get that essence and caricaturize it a little bit, then it becomes more fun to look at. It gives us an opportunity to have like little scenarios and little scenes going on. Every so often we'll find a figure or an animal that kind of relates a little story or something, so we try to set something up kind of whimsical and have a good time with it.
Bob's trains are from the Lehman Grossbahn or LGB family. These German-built models have been designed to look like modern-day American trains, similar to ones you'd find climbing the Sierra Mountains.
Yeah, the trains I chose, I wanted to represent
an American narrow gauge railroad. And I took it a little step further to make it in the 21st century.
His mountains are a combination of reality and illusion. Some of these peaks are real, and some are sculpted by the fine hand of an artist. He has carefully shaped and painted these mountains to create a dramatic backdrop.
What I try to do here is incorporate like real rock shards with the concrete rocks on either side and try to blend them together, so almost as if these rock cliffs are separated and split apart. Just the illusion of you know, something that might have happened, even though it obviously didn't happen in a flat backyard.
These mountains also provide Bob with the opportunity to weave his trains in and out of view. His trains wind their way through tunnels, over trestles, and across waterfalls. He placed his track at several levels so that you could see trains from above as well as below.
You know, the trains appear and they disappear and then reappear, so you can never quite tell where they're going to come and go to. And it's that little bit of ambiguity, that sense of mystery that keeps the viewer interested in seeing what the trains are doing.
Plants and shrubs, like these Japanese junipers, also disguise the train's movement. Here, under the shade of a mulberry tree, you'll find the garden portion of his backyard. Bob has planted some Arizona cypress to add color to the garden and rosemary to add fragrance. He uses the Japanese junipers to separate the track. You won't find any flowers here because he believes it's difficult to keep them in scale. Scale is important to the integrity of his garden. His plants become smaller as you get closer to the track.
It's a transition. If you'll notice that the plant material that's near the viewer is a little bit larger in scale, and as you come down and get closer to the track, the leaves and the scale of the plants become smaller. So it kind of draws your eye into the railroad.
A visually interesting whistle-stop garden also includes a realistic train operation. For Bob, that means transferring trains through the roundhouse and switching machines. Like fine art, his garden railway is open to viewer interpretation.
So I think if it looks interesting and it operates, then people don't get bored, including the owner. And people want to come back and see it again and again.
You see it in his trains, his mountains, his waterfall, and most of all in his miniature scenes. Building a great whistle-stop garden may seem complicated, but it isn't. In Bob Treat's garden, it's simple. Be yourself, express yourself, and have fun doing it.
That wraps up our tour of Whistle Stop Gardens. And as you can see, it's a hobby that brings out the little kid in all of us. But as any good gardener will tell you, this is a journey, not a destination, one that's never finished. I'm Paul James. Thanks for joining me on Whistle Stop Gardens.